Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We are back for another edition of the Wrestling Underground podcast. I am your host, as always, Chad Porto. Joining me is the glorious one himself, Marcus Green. Marcus, we're going to try to get through the show without my internet cutting out. High hopes. He's got high hopes.
This was a part of our 2022 goals, people.
It was also part of our 2021, 2020, 2019, 2018. I've been doing this since 2009, and I've had one goal. Can the internet not go out?
You dare call us inconsistent.
We are dramatically consistent. We are the gopher meme from 2005 consistent. Speaking of shocked gopher face, or whatever the fuck that thing was, beaver, we got a bunch of releases, man. And apparently we're going to be getting them every 90 days now. If you are in NXT and you are not cutting the mustard fast enough, or if you're over the dreaded cutoff line of 30, you're getting 86th out the door. Currently released, Dexter Lumis, Malcolm Bivens, Dakota Kai, and I have no idea who the fuck these rest people are. Raylan Devine, Persha Parati, Mila Milani. Are these porn stars? I don't know. Draco Anthony. That sounds like a Harry Potter fan character. I'm Draco Anthony, the grandson of Draco Malfoy.
Or porn star. This list Brazzers on.
Right? Like, people don't realize just how close porn star and pro wrestling names are. Sanjana George? Sanjana George? I'm saying one of those gotta be right.
Okay, now we just back to awkward. It's not porn.
And then Paige Prinzivali.
Yeah.
There was one other name I didn't mention because I was genuinely shocked to get released. Harland, a.k.a. Parker Bordeaux. I shouldn't have been surprised because didn't they also just release what was her name with the red hair and then the blue hair and then she was gone and she came back and then she's gone again.
Red hair, blue. What are we talking about? You're not talking about Ember.
No, she was on Total Divas. Her and JoJo. Then she did like the whole wardrobe malfunctioning gimmick.
Oh, you talking about Evilise?
No, not Evilise. Eva Marie?
Yeah,
okay.
Eva Marie. There.
Tag team work.
There it is. Boom.
She was training with Harlan at one point. Like they were doing all those photos together. So like I thought he was gonna stick around for a while. But he's been in the company for about a year. And he's already gone. And he just debuted on NXT like 3 months ago. And he's got a great look.
And then they say he cut his hair for that gimmick?
Yeah. So I'm kind of befuddled why they got rid of him. I guess he wasn't progressing as fast.
He overcommitted.
Very possible. I think part of the issue is that they feel the heat. They don't have a lot of talent in NXT, and the show is significantly paying for it. Now they're going to produce all these very generic characters because they think this is the archetype that works.
They made the show, tried to make the show a legitimate third brand using non-homegrown talent. Then they jettisoned the whole reason why that was even my little contender with the other, well, it was never competing with Raw SmackDown because it was supposed to be a Wednesday night solution to AEW's growing thing. That didn't work out. So then they just jettisoned everything that was seemingly built by Triple H, and now they're sporadically putting a bunch of talent, not all of them, because some of them are actually quite good, but now they jettisoned a bunch of talent on TV who clearly aren't ready to be on TV. And now they cutting people at random like it's their fault. They do that all the time.
Yeah,
They
it's kind of like that whole Jackie Gata thing. Do you remember that? She wins Tough Enough, and then
mm-hmm.
no, and Nydia. I think it was Nydia specifically. She wins Tough Enough season 1, and then they put her like right on the main roster. I think Gata and what was her name? Shaniqua with the
Maybe right
Bashams.
because I know. Yeah, because I know Nydia got put with Jamie Noble and well, specifically Jamie Noble.
Well, like all three of them got rushed to the main roster, and then they flamed out, and they're like, "Oh, well, you're terrible." They've had 7 weeks of training. You know, Parker Bordeaux hadn't been wrestling prior to him signing with NXT, so like, I don't know what they were expecting out of this. I really don't. This company seems to really have their head up their ass.
That's the weird thing too, because they want, and I think I saw somewhere. I didn't go into the article, but it looked like somewhere Triple H was like the people who have never done. And I might be paraphrasing here. I mean, I am paraphrasing. I can't get the exact quote, but it's like the people who have never wrestled at all have lesser bad habits than I guess, in his opinion, the people who were on the indies for a long time.
Yeah, but what constitutes a bad habit? Getting over? You know?
And it's the weirdest thing because they want people that they can basically stake and say we built them up, but they want them to be ready. So I guess in their mind, that's where they bring in these athletes to try to bridge that gap because it's like okay,
Mm-hmm.
they already got the athletics, they already have the mind to be disciplined. So they'll, you get somebody to work. They'll follow the protocol as long as you got something regimented that they can follow, which is, I guess, the WWE style. And they try to bridge the gap in the middle, but that doesn't always work either. So it's like it's really they really doing a disservice to a lot of these people because specifically with the NXT people, so many of those people uproot their lives to move to Florida for God knows what they get paid, which you've gone off into plenty of times. Uproot
It's not a
themselves
lot.
completely, go change their mentality, their look, and all this under for pennies on the dollar, only to get held in captivity just to get dropped.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
Court Bauer thinks Parker Bordeaux is going to be a big name. I wouldn't be I wouldn't be surprised if he shows up on MLW soon. Apparently, he was a big fan of MLW because when Bordeaux was at UCF, he would come to a bunch of their shows. So I think he could pop up on MLW real soon. But he's 24. He got out of college and went straight to NXT, and he's had 6 career matches. And you're judging him on 6 career matches, like, for fuck's sake, man! Like this company has their head up their ass. Speaking of having their head up their ass, we got to talk about what you got to do to piss off Roddy Strong, because Roddy Strong wants to be gone. He's very much done with the WWE, and apparently he's ready for his release. According to Fightful Select, the report states that he's grown frustrated with the situation in the company and has previously asked to be released, but those requests have fallen on deaf ears. This is something to be. This is something that has occurred over the course of the last several months, according to Fightful, and many people within NXT are surprised that Strong wasn't one of the names mentioned during the April 29th wave of releases. He re-signed with the WWE before the original iteration of the Diamond Mine was introduced, and now the former Ring of Honor stalwart remains the lone member of that version still with the company. Despite all these changes, including a potential new name change that Strong wanted nothing to do with, WWE sources for Fightful stated that Strong has remained professional in his dealings with the company. As it stands right now, WWE has Strong factored into the creative plans moving forward. Oh, by the by, Roddy Strong's on the wrong side of 30 as well. He's 38. He'll be 39 this July.
Low.
So I don't know why he's still in the company.
Roderick Strong is talent. You can't really debate it. You seen Russell, the guy's a stud, but he really never popped off with any character of any real note. Got to NXT, also could go in the ring, but he was dead ass regular. Didn't have personality. Then they did this great highlight package with him eventually talking about his life. And it had some real heart tugging stuff in there, so that kind of boosted him, but still not necessarily where he needed to be. Then he joined Undisputed Era, absolutely helped him. We know the run that they had. Once that group split, more than the other three, he was the one that was going to be mainly in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Seemingly was again kind of just there. Then did the Diamond Mine thing. That I think had a lot of potential, probably more so than a lot of things they have there right now. Specifically with Malcolm Bivens taking the mic because that guy's got a lot of personality.
Malcolm Bivens is amazing.
Yeah, he's brilliant.
What was his former name before he went to the WD? Because he was with the Ring of Honor for a little while.
Yeah, I was trying to
'Cause
see.
wasn't he Jay Lethal's manager?
I want to say. Wait a minute. This must be after Martini, right?
Yeah. Truth Martini was his manager during the first title run. That was with the House of Truth. And then after the House of Truth, he had like another small group with Stokely Hathaway.
Yeah.
Yes, because it was Stokely, Jay Lethal, and Taylor Hendricks.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I guess she was a carryover from the House of Truth.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
No,
so
I'm sorry. It was Veda Scott.
gotcha. There it is.
That's what it was. It was Veda Scott,
Yeah.
Stokely Hathaway, Jay Lethal, and I think Moose may have been involved loosely.
Yeah, because we know they're certainly not on the same page now.
No.
Lethal and Hendricks anyway.
No.
But that's another thing for another day. But yeah. So he joined Diamond Mine. I thought they had a lot of potential. That was working. They kind of transitioned away from him a little bit because he obviously dropped the North American title. Kind of got him out of that picture. But anyway, I thought the group had a lot of potential. Then now that's been toppled, and I think again between the stuff that's going on in NXT, which is certainly not the NXT that he arrived in. Um, on top of the fact that basically his group just up and moved to AEW, he's probably looking like, look, man, writing's on the wall. It's been on the wall for a while. I've had some good saves here, but it's only a matter of time. Specifically with this group being done, he more than likely if he pops up in AEW to join the undisputed Red Dragons, I'm not surprised. I wouldn't be surprised.
I think that's why they're keeping him too, because they don't want him to go there. Although, let's be honest, I'ma say it. We're all thinking it. The Undisputed Era was the was the Safeway brand Four Horsemen. They were the Aldi brand Four Horsemen. They weren't winning any wars with AEW, and they damn sure weren't moving merchandise like the Four Horsemen used to. So I really don't see Roddy going back to AEW or going to AEW to rejoin his buddies, and it being like some monumental surge of power. Like, I'm sorry, he's not that guy. They're not that group. But I want him to be happy. So whenever a wrestler asks for their release, I'm kind of just like, all right, just let him go.
Yeah.
If he doesn't want to be there, then let him find someplace he wants to be.
Yeah, and to your point, I don't think it's gonna knock up any numbers at all. I mean, it's Roderick Strong. Like I say, he can go, but it's Roderick Strong. But I think he realizes like this is probably the better play. That's probably the best position for him to be in, because if he tries to go there as a singles, he's kind of gonna just get lost in the shuffle. There's a lot going on right now. People are always coming in, and with names like Joe Punk and other guys there, it'd probably be better for him to just get right back into that groove with the group and do that. So, but it is interesting to seeing how they're rebranded the whole thing with this 2.0, and now they're gutting that.
Well, when it comes to strong, Marcus, I'll just say this: Rampage and AEW Dark need main events.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Speaking of main events, we almost found out that the yearly trashing of pro wrestling was not going to have its main event. When it was announced, apparently it was Dave Meltzer, that Vice was not going to renew Dark Side of the Ring. Instantly, I knew that was horseshit, and here's why, Marcus. That's the only show people know Vice for. I don't know if it's like a huge ratings hit, But then again, what is on Vice? Like, this is a smaller channel than Access TV.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, it's kind of feel like they've kind of made that. I don't know how long they've been around before they started doing Dark Side, but that's pretty much what they've kind of staked their name on.
They used to be real big, I think, because they were a digital publication for a while, and then they started doing videos, and then they launched their own channel. So imagine like Playboy getting their own like they did, but imagine that like Playboy launches as a magazine, then late '90s I think is what it was. They launched their own TV station. That's essentially what Vice is. Only Vice more caters to the fringe parts of society, like um, motorcycle culture, tagging culture, pro wrestling. I think they did like a special on what the hell is it called? Like cartels. Like they do kind of like that kind of entertainment, like that stuff where they explore lesser known aspects of society. Like that's kind of their brand. So pro wrestling fits in that. Well, they're apparently not done with the wrestling world. They released a response basically saying, we've heard some rumors flying around about season 4 of Dark Side of the Ring. We are as committed as ever to both the series and the broader Dark Side franchise. Evan and Jason are hard at work making more content that we know our fans of the series will love. Stay tuned. So I think there might be truth to both of this. I think Meltzer's right when he says that they have not renewed season 4 yet. But I don't think that means that it's canceled. I think Rick and Morty, as popular as they were, there was a time when they weren't renewed past like a second or third season, but it wasn't because Cartoon Network didn't want them. It was because the creator wasn't sure when he was going to be ready to start writing again. And he didn't want to commit until he knew he had some ideas for the show. So that might be a similar situation where there's interest on both sides to do another season. It's just we're not ready to commit yet. So there might be a year delay before we get season 4. So I think that's more than likely what it is. And according to, let's see, Meltzer wrote that even though Dark Side of the Ring was the most popular show in the history of the station, so, and
Yeah,
apparently there's a lot of controversy coming off the Plane Ride from Hell story, and we knew that because Jim Ross wasn't happy, Ric Flair definitely wasn't happy,
yeah,
but these weren't stories that we heard that we didn't hear before. And like the whole Jim Ross being mad thing, like, be mad, bro, but you got to remember, those of us who saw the stories in 2002 and heard all the conversations for the last 20 years, we know you didn't do shit about it. And just because you look bad now doesn't mean it wasn't true.
Wait a minute. So he was mad after it aired?
Yeah. So was Ric Flair and a few other people because it made them look bad. But like the whole thing is like Jim Ross has a history of being a douchebag.
Well, I can
I know we
understand.
can't speak ill of Jim Ross anymore, but Jim Ross was a bad dude when he worked with WWE. Like he screwed a lot of people out of contracts. Ask Jeff Jarrett. Like that whole Jeff Jarrett held Vince McMahon up for money storyline. That's a WWE idea. Jeff Jarrett just wanted his fair pay that Jim Ross refused to give him. It's like there are seriously mitigating circumstances about
It's
so much
it's
of this.
it's always interesting when you see people be on these shows, specifically, reality and whatnot, because it's one thing you say Rick was pissed, I get it, or even if something was loosely said secondhand, like somebody asked Brock about it, and he didn't ever watch it, but he didn't, like anything being brought up about that situation. I could get that because they weren't on the episode.
Mm-hmm.
What was he pissed about? Everything that could have came off bad about him was most of what he said.
Mm-hmm.
So, like when you agreed to do it, you had to know that was gonna air. If you wanted to skirt around stuff, you could have chose different things to say. You didn't. So what he did it and thought it wasn't gonna air? Like what did he? They had to tell him what he knew it was about the plane ride from hell. If he didn't want to talk about it, he didn't have to show up.
Yeah, this wasn't the WWE trying to milk some situations like with the Paul Roma story with the Four Horsemen,
Yeah.
where basically Paul Roma showed up and when he was asked about the Four Horsemen, he was like, "Oh man, I was just happy to be a part of it, and Rick was great, and all those guys was great." But then they showed him like Triple H saying, the jobber guy from WCW or WWE, and Ric Flair was told like a version of what Roma was going to say, and Flair got mad, so they showed him that. So Roman then cut a promo on Flair, and it was all contrived and just nonsense created by the people filming to get a reaction that they thought they were going to get originally. So, yeah, I don't think that's the case with this Vice story though with Dark Side of the Ring. I think people just kind of didn't realize how pissed they would be 20 years later. But guess what? They were.
Look, like I said, look, man, the stuff don't. A lot of this stuff kind of comes off people being mad at themselves for participating at the time, which it came off like that with Jim Ross when he was on the episode. But a lot of it, he knew the position he was in. He said it. He had to be the bad guy, and he had to do it a lot of times because he had to answer to Vince. But the whole point of him being under Vince was to play the bad guy. Even though Vince was as culpable more than anybody because he was the boss and apparently on the damn plane with Linda at the time when the whole plane ride went down. So it's like, but he was the guy that they had to go to because essentially he was the wrangler, and so certain guys got longer ends of the shorter ends of the stick than other people when they was equally as culpable. And like I said, if that very much came off like a extremely sour note that he really didn't want to rehash through, but you showed up to talk about it. So unless they edited words in your mouth that you didn't say, it's kind of just that long-standing festivity that people hold on to that they kind of want to erase.
Gotta own it. So we spoke last week about not knowing what the Women's Wrestling Army was prior to finding out that there was matches booked for a show. Marcus, that show happened yesterday. I didn't know that was happening so quickly. I feel like this was kind of a rushed outing. And looking at the quote-unquote attendance from the show, there was maybe 100 people there. Now, to be clear, that may be all that they offered tickets for, and it looked more or less like it was by invite only. I don't know that for sure, Marcus, because I didn't hear anything about ticket sales prior to the show debuting. But it did. So, some names that were on it that you would know. Trisha Adora and Big Swole, they wrestled to a time limit draw. Tasha Steelz defeated Taya Valkyrie. Let's see. Nicole Savoy defeated Janae Kai, and I like Janae Kai. She's very cool. And then the Hex in the main event, Allison Kay and Marty Bell defeated Holly Dead and Willow Nightingale to retain the NWA Women's World Tag Team titles. So that was kind of it. And there's a bunch of other names on the show that I think will be interesting to see how they turn out. But right now, this was a missed opportunity. They did not do a great job marketing this. I don't know if it was a show that had fans in attendance or if it was just folks that knew folks. It certainly didn't look like anyone was there. I feel like this was a bad way to start. But this was also, I think, filmed specifically for a pay-per-view. So I don't know. We're going to have to see how the Women's Wrestling Army turns out. Hopefully it doesn't fall the way of other WWA promotions in the past, like World Wrestling All-Stars.
Yeah, man. I mean, look, I said last week, even though we didn't necessarily know how things were lining up, we looked at the call, some very watchable names and whatnot, and this is another place for people to work, and specifically women work. But like you said, it's good that they got it. They were able to pull it off and whatnot. But obviously, a lot of things that go into this stuff is marketing, promotion, and what have you. Obviously, word of mouth plays another thing into that, and it's gonna take time because it's a lot of things on the wrestling plate of wrestling fans, on the plate of fans, and you kind of got to pick and choose. It's so many hours in the week. It's only so many things you could get invested in. Like, I really want to get back into New Japan, and the last two big shows they had was like some type of super type of show that, like, I think Super in it, and then obviously you talked about Wrestling Don Taku.
Chicago Super Showdown or something like that?
Yeah, something to that effect. Super something. And you're guaranteed some quality wrestling in New Japan, but those are long. You kind of have to carve out time to watch those shows. So, and that's stuff that you guaranteed to enjoy. So, with a gamble, it's a spur of the moment gamble because you heard about it, but you didn't really know if it was popping off, and then you hear the names, you're like, okay, I want to see these people clash. Specifically if you got to go look it up too. It's not like I don't think it's readily available. I talked about that with Wow. So like I said, I'm happy for them. Glad they pulled it off. Hope they get a chance to do it again. But as long-time Impact fans, we former TNA, we know how pivotal marketing and promotion can be. You know.
It's very, very pivotal. Hopefully, we get some more updates on when the show airs, if it airs, and what they have plans to do. Because like there was talks of them getting on Fight, but I don't know. Time will tell. Speaking of time telling, we thought Juice Robinson was walking away. Goodbye, so long. I was pitching ideas from Joint Impact because I think he could be a world champion of the company. Well, apparently, folks at New Japan were like, "Hey, Juicy, you wanna pop on in the Bullet Club and be a Bullet Club member for life?" Apparently, he was down with the idea. Popped up at Taku after Tanahashi and Ishii wrestled for the U.S. title, and he snagged the belt from the then champion. I'm gonna refrain from spoilers so Marcus can enjoy the show himself. But Juice Robinson's in the Bullet Club now. I think this is fantastic. This is like the best thing Juice Robinson's done since his promo on Jay White back in San Francisco.
You're not wrong. I mean, look, this is the one of the. They've had some obscure names join the club over the years. Cody and Cole being two of them, but certainly Juice is not one I saw coming. But it's a new direction that definitely could line up as a different character switch. Because how many times have we seen him as a heel? I mean, if he was a heel as C.J. Parker's because the character was trash. But this is an interesting direction for him to go, specifically with continued ties with Impact because we see what's going on there. They just let Baldy 1 and Baldy 2 back in, but that's what it is.
Well, at least we don't have to worry about them in Impact as much anymore. There's that. Also, big news coming out of wrestling the world this week. The Stone Pitbull Tomohiro Ishii going to be going up against Josh Alexander at this weekend's Under Siege event. The show currently only has 6 matches, excuse me. And it's going to be broadcasting live from Newport, Kentucky. I would expect another 2 or 3 matches added this week's Impact. It's not a bad show, though, on paper. It's going to be an Impact Plus event. The main event's Ishii versus Alexander, but we also have the Tag Team Championships being on the line between Violent by Design versus the Briscoe Brothers. Now, if you like them, you'll enjoy that match. I don't care. Taya Valkyrie's taking on Deonna Purrazzo. Tasha Steelz is taking on Havoc for the Knockouts Championship. Chris Sabin's taking on Steve Macklin. And then in a 10-man tag match, it's going to be the Bullet Club. Jay White, Chris Bay, Doc Gallows, El Phantasmo, and Carl Anderson versus Honor No More's Eddie Edwards, Kenny King, Matt Taven, Mike Bennett, and Vincent.
Yes, hey man, that's a good card. I could do without Tasha and Havoc because I mean, is that for the title?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a foregone conclusion. I don't need to see that. Because I'm gonna stop watching for a while if you drop the belt to Havoc and you didn't give it to Rosemary. Blasphemy.
Mm-hmm.
But so that's a foregone conclusion. You can make that a online exclusive. That's no shot at Havoc. But
It is.
That's a good. Yeah, that's definitely a shot at Havoc. That's a good card, man.
It's definitely not bad for an Impact Plus event. So if you have Impact Plus, it's free. Like you got to sign up for the service, but otherwise it's free. We had some Impact news. Let me see if I can't find it though, because a couple names are on the way out apparently. Here we go. This is from who is this from originally? The Wrestling Observer states that Gallows and Anderson are not anywhere close to an agreement to re-sign with the company. Joan is also set to finish his run, which is why he lost to Ishii. And this is directly, I think, tied to New Japan because he's talked about how New Japan is his number one, and he's been working with Impact for the last few months, but only because Japan's borders have not been open to travelers. But that's changing, which is why Anderson and Gallows and Juice were back on the main show because Juice had been on New Japan Strong for the last few months. We also found out that Willie Mack was reporting on an annual contract, and he may not be back as well. Mack was reporting was reportedly on an annual contract that was supposedly to increase into a six-figure payout. The company reportedly cut the contract, so I guess they have a new contract for Mack, or did have a new contract for Mack, and they weren't happy with it. Recently, as of late, Mack has been teaming with with Rich Swann, so.
Man.
But that may be like the Josh Alexander thing, where they just need to figure out the deal, so to speak. Because losing Willie Mack doesn't make a lot of sense. Personally.
Look, man, Max been there. Max put in work. Max been loyal. Max is stud, man. Go ahead, try to. They need to figure that out. Keep him with Swan. Eventually get the tag titles off him. I feel like I've been calling for this as long as you've been calling for Richards to come back to Impact. And yeah, man. As far as no, we're gonna lose the Good Brothers. Oh no.
Oh no.
Well, it's the Good Brothers, the Inspiration, Lord, whatever is we used to do. Um,
And we'll get to the inspiration here in a second.
yeah,
I got something else to talk about with the inspiration. But yeah, Jonah's going to be a loss because I like Jonah.
Man, Jonah. I dug him in NXT, but he's been having feels like a super fight every time I've seen him in Impact, which has only elevated his profile.
Yes.
And I think obviously that's what you want when you coming off of whatever in the hell happened with his NXT ending. So, I think he's been obviously appreciative of what he's been able to do in Impact, but if the long-term goal has always been in New Japan, because, like I said, an instant Kaido fight that comes to mind is him and Jeff Cobb.
Mm-hmm.
You talk and meat slapping, colliding. It's an Ultraman fight right there. But, yeah, I mean, he's definitely put in some work, man. Like I said, he's been having a super fight every chance he's gotten. The whole thing, PCO has been entertaining. Obviously, we've seen what he did with Josh Alexander, the Ishii thing. Look, I can feel that through the screen. So, I appreciate what he's done. I'd like to see him kind of stick around. But if, like I said, if he can get the opportunity to go, take it, man.
So, before we talk about the inspiration, former Impact stars from their NWA TNA days, the SAT are joining up with MLW. The SAT are the cousins of Amazing Red. Originally, that was Jose and... Was it Jose Maximo and Joel Maximo? There's a third Maximo brother now, or cousin, or whatever. And they're going to be joining up in MLW very soon. Nothing really to comment more on about that, just if you're a fan of the Amazing Red, and if you remember the SAT, which is the Spanish announce team, by the way. That's what the SAT means. They're not announcers, though. So, again, it's hilarious. If you're a fan of them, was it Spanish announce table? It's one of those. If you were a fan of them back in 2002, 2003, they are back in the zeitgeist of pro wrestling. And I encourage everyone to check them out when they debut on MLW with the Kings of Colosseum taping here on May 13th. But moving on to the inspiration, Marcus. They're out of Impact. Apparently they are looking at retirement because they want to get into acting. Considering that's been their best part of their wrestling careers is their mic work, I'm not surprised. But here's where I have the issue. I'm beyond done with talent coming over from the WWE because back when it was Booker T and Matt Morgan and Kevin Nash and Kurt Angle, not so much Matt Morgan, but they all had name value, or at least potential in Morgan's case. But the Iconics, the Inspiration, whatever you want to call them, they weren't ever that big. I enjoyed their work; they were fun personalities, but yeah. Then you have Brian Myers. His contract is also up. And while it seems like he's going to continue to do work with Impact, he's not going to make them exclusive. Which again, fine, you do you. But I'm at this point where I'm like, why do you keep signing these schmucks who are only using you as a rental property? I feel like this is, like you're the kind of borderline attractive chick who just keeps putting out, hoping one day some guy will make you his wife. But here's the thing: they don't purchase when they're getting it for free. So I feel like when it comes to Impact, they need to stop giving away their stuff for free. Stop signing the Jonas, the Brian Myers, the Inspirations. Start getting 3-year contracts out the door. Start locking people up because honestly, like I'm fine with turnover when it needs to happen, but this just feels like you're just not doing your job enough. It feels like we're watching a perpetual stream of Bobby Roodes.
It feels like because they cried in an interview about them getting released, and obviously, that's their experience. That's 100% tied to their feelings specifically. It was a dream come true for them, but it felt like they needed to. Feel like people come to Impact to prove a point.
Mm-hmm.
To get jilted by the popular girl in high school that got with them for a look, and then when it didn't suit their narrative no more, they dumped them like a bad habit.
Mm-hmm.
And they come to Impact to prove a point, like they can, do whatever they want to and get anybody they want. And then when they stroke their own ego enough, they do the same thing to Impact that got done to them. Um, Except Impact never really needed them, but they're more friendlier and open to jilted lovers, if you will, probably than they should be. Like you said, they need to be looking for people with the loyalty of people like the Mac and Eddie Edwards and Josh Alexander and other people who, very much want to build and feed into the brand and build their brand with the Impact stuff. Like, and I don't know how anybody didn't just look at everybody in the room and go, inspiration to influence. Is anybody else confused by this shit?
I mean, you have a point. Marcus, I just wish these talent would want to stick around. Maybe it's the pay, maybe it's the atmosphere, maybe they're just bunny hopping to the next idea, but why are you putting so much? Because the issue is like you could be putting young talent over instead of like the inspiration, right? Like go out and re-sign Ava Story and put her in a tag team. Like find ways of getting these talents over and not just relying on the hand-me-downs that would rather just use you as a stepping stone to something else as opposed to actually building talent that will stick around and paying them like they deserve. Like Willie Mack not getting his 6 figures because of some bunk reason is just it's obnoxious.
Yeah.
So I'm perturbed, and I didn't mind the Inspiration signing, but I thought they were going to be around. They were
Yeah.
around for 7 months, if that.
Yeah, it was cool. Like I said, it felt like they needed to prove a point. They proved it. They got some titles out of it, which we know the long history with new signees and titles in TNA.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's other people they could be getting. Quick question: speaking of people they could bring in and get some, I guess, some form of longevity out of. Would you bring in the Santana Garrett? Because I feel like she's been
Hell yeah.
hopping around for years, and people, she's felt like the girl that everybody should like to marry, but nobody wants to commit to.
Yeah, Santana Garrett kind of has the Roddy Strong issue. Talented in the ring, athletic
Yeah.
enough that she's not going to be a liability. But who is she?
Mm.
She has no gimmick, and like people often confuse gimmick with like shtick, but she has no gimmick. Like Danhausen's gimmick is he's Danhausen. He's a 1950s serial movie villain brought to life. Like he's a sci-fi horror villain brought to life. That's his gimmick, and it works. Hooks is that he's this quiet dude with coiffy hair who can choke you out but doesn't speak because he's mysterious. It's his gimmick. I don't know if it works. People seem to like it. I don't know. I'm not really afraid of a 140-pound twink. Like I'm just not. Like Taz was legit because that dude looked like a bowling ball. Hook looks like an Abercrombie and Fitch model. Like I'm like, all right, dude.
That's pissed he's not getting the model deal that he should be getting.
He really should. That is one handsome young lad.
Yeah, that is
He
it.
is a handsome young lad. But like Looking
Yeah,
at Santana Garrett, it's like she's attractive, she's
she's smart.
talented,
Yeah, she's bouncy. Yeah,
but what is she? Who is she? You know, like
yeah,
she. I don't want to say she needs a personality because it sounds so insulty-ish. Like, ugh, you're so boring. You need a personality. But as a character, she needs a personality. Like, I need to know who she is. I need to know her gimmick.
yeah. You're not wrong about that because right now she is just known as the good hand.
Mm-hmm. It's that idea of like, look at Rosemary. If Rosemary was just whoever she was before she was Rosemary, I forget what her name was, and she was never a character wrestler. She just wrestled. I don't think she'd be an Impact. I don't think she'd be a future Hall of Famer. I don't think she'd have the legacy she had. Chris Park, he became Abyss. Granted, I bet you he wished he didn't need to do all the things he did to his body to get over the way he did. But what are you gonna do? But she, Santana Garrett's one of those names that she needs to figure out who her Abyss is. Who is her Rosemary? Her Mankind, her Stone Cold Steve Austin. She needs to figure that out. Personally, that's what I think she needs to do about that. Speaking of figuring things out, Marcus, Eric Young. He's gonna be a big ol' conversationalist for Dangle Bet Selly. Jesus Christ. Well, it's going to be a new game show on Game Plus and Anthem. Here's the release. It's announced today that its popular Game Plus network is launching its all-new hockey-centered series Dangle Bet Selly in conjunction with top fantasy sports outlet FTN Network and fast-growing online gaming specialists Point Bet Canada. Dangle Bet Selly. I hate that name so much. Airs every Tuesday and Thursday at 10 a.m. in the U.S. and in Canada on Game Plus, beginning May 3rd, just in time for the NHL playoffs. Hosted by FTN's daily resident fantasy sports guru Chris Meaney. That's really his name, Chris Meaney. And reigning Impact World Wrestling Tag Team Champion Eric Young. Dangle Bet Selly delivers the absolute best in NHL picks. I thought that said pricks for a second. Picks, I was about to say picks, pricks, and pops. That's not, no. In bets, picks, and props, and fantasy hockey advice, giving hockey enthusiasts the latest cutting-edge info and expert analysis breaking down the day's slate of exciting NHL action. Each episode finds Meaney and Young weighing in with their own favorite picks, totals, and shot props for the night, with lines provided by PointsBet Canada. Prior to the series premiere on May 3rd, Dangle Bet Selly will present a Stanley Cup preview event today, the first night of the NHL playoffs, giving viewers everything they need to know as teams across the league prepare to make their marks on the history and the battle for the NHL's most coveted prize. There's like 9 more paragraphs, but that's all I got in me. Marcus, are you about to get into hockey to see Eric Young yell about stuff?
Nope, not doing it. Nope.
I've never seen like Eric Young this is his 3rd TV show. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I don't think you are. I commend him for being able to consistently get on TV though. That's not
He's got to have something on these guys because like with Pursuit, he had I think it was Pursuit. He had a travel show. May have been on Destination America, but he also had a fishing show, which I think was on Animal Planet.
Yeah.
So Young kind of gets work.
He was putting in work. That when he got that world title, and he had like 2 TV shows and making some other appearances. I was like, look at that young man hustling, and he looked like at the time like a Duck Dynasty intern.
Yes, he did.
So I mean, I commend him. I mean, it was on brand and everything was working. He got the world title. People didn't see that coming, but thank God the Magnus reign ended. So, like I said, I commend him, man. It's not easy to constantly get on, networks to believe in you to put you on TV. So,
So the first show he did was Off the Hook Extreme Catches on Animal Planet. After the first season ran successfully from July to September, the show returned for a second season in August of 2013. Then in April of 2014, it was announced that he would host No Limits on Animal Planet. The show ran for one season and was about extreme sports and other activities. So it wasn't a travel show; it was an extreme sports show. So I too am not interested in watching Dangle Betselli, mostly because I don't know what those words mean.
Like, is he kin to Marco Bellinelli?
This is yeah. This is gonna be an interesting situation. I also love that you just dropped a Marco Bellinelli reference.
Only reason why I even know who that is because I was watching. I think that was First Take, and I think Stephen A. was making fun of the name, and they had Skip laughing about it.
Making fun of Italian, Stephen A. Not cool, brother. Not cool. That's all I got for this week's show, though. What about you?
Yeah.
Anything?
No, that was. I mean, I was. We kind of talked about it before, man. But I guess it kind of goes back to the NXT release thing. But stop trying to all you WWE zealots out there. Stop trying to paint people as bitter and scorned after they get released by the company or ask for their release. Outright quit the company because they're no longer getting treated how they feel they should be treated after things constantly flip on their head. The NXT that got popular as a 1 hour show that turned into a 2 hour show to become its own thing on the network is off the network on the TV is not the same thing today that it once was, man. It's 2.0 is a completely different beast backed and written by people who are as inept there as they are on the main roster. I think they're probably the same people at this point. So, when somebody like Ember Moon has a clip released of an interview where she's talking about her experience and she brings up the fact that it's no longer the brand that she thought it came to because they're now having meetings about how the women should dress and in particular look more sexier when she's had damn near Game of Thrones as gimmick for the longest in a way, or something to that effect. And they're telling her telling a group of women that they need to look more like Mandy Rose.
Mm-hmm.
And even to the point of telling them how they need to look when they're at a grocery store. Like, what are you, the fuck? So, like, painting her as a bitter villain that's entitled. I'm like, if you could get any more kiss ass, it would be a documentary. Like,
Yeah.
these people on Twitter. Twitter isn't a real space. It's for the meek and the weak and the, like I said, these over eager ass kissers. So, other than that, man, happy birthday to the Brahma Bulls, a great one. The Rock, Black Adam, all that good stuff.
Still not watching your show.
But you are, it's high comedy at this point, though. I gotta get at that.
Acknowledge me! I will not.
Aqua Taker.
Ugh. What is that? God damn it, Dwayne. What are you doing? RealNerdCorp.com. RealNerdCorp.com. We're on Twitter at NERDCORP. We're on Instagram at, no, we're not. Twitch.tv/Wrestling Underground. Mark is going to be found on Twitter at ParadoxKid, PARADOXKID.
That's the kid.
You can also catch him on his other podcast, The True Penny Show, TRUEPENNYSHOW. You can catch me on Twitter, Chad Nerdcorp, CHEDNERDCORP, and on the Instagram at Chad's Photohut, CHEDSPHOTOHUT. Be sure to check us out there. Follow us, like us, subscribe to us, or don't. I don't care. We're going to be here every week. Because we're just, I don't know, sadists. We enjoy the pain. Pro wrestling. So what's for dinner? For Marcus Green, I'm Chad Porto. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for checking us out. Thanks for giving us a chance. And remember, as always, to check us out next Monday at 9 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Eastern. One of those is right. 11 p.m., 10 p.m. One of those is right. Check us out on Twitter. That's where you'll figure us out. So for Marcus Green, I'm Chad. Watch more wrestling, and Marcus, take us home.
Good night, me.